Now, welcome to another Let's Talk Some Star Wars, where this time we'll be discussing the results of the poll that asked you to rate, or how many stars would you give, the first season of Andor. I'll then be reading and responding to some comments, as well as comparing these results to the results for all the other Disney Plus shows thus far. And like with my last Let's Talk Some Star Wars from a few days ago, I'm going to bring my wife in to kind of bounce some ideas and thoughts off of. It's just easier that way for me to talk to somebody instead of just staring at a microphone. And so let us begin with the results of the poll.
The results of what rating or how many stars would you give the first season of Andor? 70%, 5 stars, it was amazing. 20%, 4 stars, it was good. 6%, 3 stars, it was about average. 2% and 2% for 1 and 2 stars, it wasn't very good or it was terrible.
All right, and when we do a little bit of math here and kind of figure out the average score, it comes out to 4.51 stars, which actually puts it 100th of a point ahead of The Mandalorian Season 1. But still roughly 23 hundredths behind The Mandalorian Season 2 for the top-rated Disney Plus show of all time. Not that there's a ton of them, but still of all time. All right, so let's now move on to the top-rated comment, which is how we always begin these. But not before I once again just say thank you to everyone who does vote, comment, and watches these or any of my videos, as well as a big thank you to anyone who supports this channel over on Patreon. And now let us get to that top-rated comment.
All right, pardon me if I get this pronunciation wrong, but top comment is from Danko Kamchevsky. With the final episode, I finally realized Andor doesn't only refer to Cassian, but also to Marva. The Andor saga of mother and son, the mother who called to fight the Empire on the same day her son really joined the rebellion.
Yeah, I actually made a whole video, kind of separate video on this comment because it's something I certainly didn't realize that Andor could mean more than just the name of Cassian, because you had this whole idea of here are these two kind of everyday average characters going about their lives and influencing and impacting the galaxy in ways you would never imagine, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of the beauty of the show, is these are average people. These are normal people standing up and fighting. That's one of the things I love, is we don't have Jedi. And I know there's a big debate about no Jedi. Is it Star Wars without Jedi? And I mean, personally, I think Star Wars can be a lot of different things. And I think it's really interesting to see a show about those, again, average people, the people who make up the actual galaxy. I mean, there are only so many Force-sensitive people in the galaxy, right? And yes, they sometimes do the really big things, like blow up the Death Star with Luke. But you do have to have everyday people standing up for what's right and making a difference, and that's what Andor is showing us.
The next comment comes from Wacko. I will admit I was jaded by the other live-action shows Disney has given before Andor. I almost did not give Andor a chance. Every week after Episode 3, I started to have my attitude shift, and by the end I was just loving every second of it. Andor has given me that hope that Star Wars does have a future that involved me caring about it and watching it. That goes along with Jeffrey Vincent. As a 35-year-old lifelong OT fan who has been extremely critical of the Disney era, I'm still in awe of what an incredible thing Andor turned out to be. From top to bottom, it's just blown away. I was one of those who gave up on Disney Star Wars 2 episodes into Obi-Wan. I didn't start this series until 5 weeks in, when I heard it was actually good. It has turned out to be one of the best Star Wars productions ever. I can only hope that others start to join in so that we can send a message to Disney that this is how you do it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of comments, heard from a lot of people who said they weren't going to watch it and have kind of changed their tune after hearing it's pretty good. According to the numbers that we get anyway, Disney does not release internal numbers, but, like Parrot Analytics is something that keeps tabs on this. The numbers still aren't really there. The watch hours or watch minutes are not there for the series, so we only have, I think, 8 or 9 weeks or episodes in. So it's going to be interesting to see if by the end it kind of holds or maybe starts creeping upwards, because I think it's about episode 6 or 7 where people really started to pay attention to the series. The prison arc really kind of put it over the edge.
Do you think we will see a spike in view now that they have released a couple episodes to regular cable TV as well as Hulu?
I'm thinking so. I'm hoping so. It can't hurt, right? It can't hurt to put it out there and get people maybe interested to check it out further. And it's interesting to point out, I think, like Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, just fell out of the top 10 altogether after like 2 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see how Andor, comparatively speaking, does it kind of hold a few weeks out? Can it maybe, like I said, increase as the series goes on? I don't know. But I have heard a lot of people say I wasn't going to watch this. I've kind of given up on Disney Star Wars, which, hey, I won't argue against you. I do understand that perspective. I'm someone who just wants Star Wars to be good, so I do keep watching for better or worse. But it is nice to hear people, kind of admitting hey, this is actually really good. I've been disappointed by a lot of things, but this is worth watching or giving a chance to at least.
Next comment is from Jennifer. 4.5. Perhaps the pacing was a little slow to start, but overall, the most sophisticated and detailed Star Wars show ever, and up there with the best shows of the year.
Yeah, it's one of the best shows I've ever seen. And I don't say that just because it's Star Wars. I say that almost in spite of it being Star Wars, because I do hold Star Wars in a much higher standards or a higher regard. All that said, I do agree it is on the slower side a little bit. Those first 3 episodes are a bit of I don't want to say a slog, but it a lot of the times you want to, well, not a lot of times, every time you want a series to kind of grab you, episode 1, you want when that first episode ends, you want to have people sitting there like, oh, I wonder what happens next. I got to watch the next one. And I don't know that Andor necessarily does that.
But at the same time, you do get a lot of payoff for that slow-paced character development.
Yeah, your patience pays off. And at the same time, I'm not saying the first episode or 2 aren't, like, interesting. I'm not saying you're watching them and, oh, this is boring. Well, maybe some people do, but you can tell this is going somewhere. So it does keep people hooked, I believe, that way.
From John Kaufman, while the style of the story, spy drama, may not be for everyone, the quality of the production from writing to sets, props, to acting was incredible. This should have been the minimum bar for all the Disney Plus series, rather than just being the Little Brother series that had no big draw, star power, or major legacy characters.
Yeah, there should be expectations out of Star Wars. I always kind of get frustrated when I see people, well, at least we're getting Star Wars. Oh, it wasn't that bad. You're paying for this. I mean, almost anything you watch, short of being on, free broadcast TV, you're paying for it. So you should expect there should be a level of expectations. And when it comes to Star Wars, it is probably the number 1 brand or franchise that's ever existed. I mean, I don't know what you would put above it, just in terms of sheer, marketability, profitability, name draw, all of these things. So I never understand that. Like, people are like, well, at least we get Star Wars. No, it should be something good. It should be something special. And it's unfortunate that 2 of the biggest characters in the franchise did kind of have shows that kind of capitalized off the name and didn't try to do something special with the franchise or with the story.
Riley Trader, I'm sorry, but this is just one of those things where everyone loves something, and it gets really popular, and I'm in the minority. When I watch it, I just can't possibly understand why people talk about it, but I guess that's okay. We don't all have to like the same things. I just wish I could love this as much as you guys do.
Yeah, it's okay. I've never understood that when people get mad at you for not liking something you like.
Heck,
or
we're
vice
married
versa.
and like different things.
Yeah, I mean, don't you encounter that every single day of your life, people with different opinions? I have no issue. I love the series. I think it is one of the best things Star Wars I have ever seen. It's one of the best things I've ever seen, period. Like I was saying before, this is one of the best shows I've ever seen. Yet there are plenty of people who can't stand it, or, oh, I watched 10 minutes and I didn't like it. And as long as you gave it a shot and want to say I didn't like it, that's fine. Mm-hmm. What I don't like is when people automatically think it's bad because they don't want to watch it. Now, look, as I was talking about before, if you're done with Disney Star Wars, that's fine. And you don't want to watch it and you don't want to give them your money, I completely understand that. But you can't say the show is bad if you've never watched it. Mm-hmm. You can certainly say, I don't want to watch it. I don't like Disney Star Wars. But you can't just dismiss the show if you've never watched it. And I've encountered a lot of people who do that. And it's frustrating. But this comment, you don't like it, you watched it, I have no problem with that.
Next comment is from Luis. George said that Star Wars is both a soap opera and a movie for 12-year-olds. I feel that Andor actively trying to be adult led too much into the soap opera and not enough into the 12-year-old stuff. It's good, but just good, not really amazing. I found myself bored a lot of the time. Except for the jailbreak. All of that was amazing. Kino Loy is my favorite character from Andor. I'm open to a second season. If we just get a little less soap opera and a little more childhood wonder, I'm sure I'll like it.
Well, the good news is we are getting a second season, 100% confirmed. It's filming. And again, I get what you're saying. I understand the argument that this quote-unquote isn't Star Wars, right? That it doesn't have that childlike wonder. But that doesn't mean Star Wars, I think, has to hold itself or pigeon-toe itself to that. I think especially when we have multiple shows a year. It's not like we get a movie every, 3 years and then we take a decade or two off and get 3 more movies. No, we're getting constant content now, right? So there's no reason why not to diversify that content.
Mm-hmm. Marvel did it originally in the first few phases, and it worked very well for them.
Yeah, so, I mean, I get the argument. You don't have to like everything Star Wars anymore. Mm-hmm. Because, not that you ever did, but we get so much of it these days. For better or worse, we get so much of it. So it makes sense to make things that are more geared towards adults, or something that's more geared towards a younger audience, or that tries to capture that original feel, the Jedi, Sith, good versus evil. So I get people, again, I get people who don't like it. I get the argument that it doesn't feel like Star Wars to you, but I think Star Wars, if it's going to survive, if you're going to churn out content at this rate, it all has to feel different on some level.
Damon Evans says, it was also nice to finally get a chance to really see some stuff of different corners of the galaxy. The show made the galaxy feel huge, unlike the other shows where it's just Tatooine over and over and over again.
I agree, and I do wonder if it's just the attention to detail and the world building. Like Ferrix, for example, it feels like a fleshed out real place. We kind of take Tatooine for granted, or they kind of take it for granted, that we know what it is, we know how it kind of functions, we've seen it before. So you just kind of have people in the background doing stuff. This on Ferrix and Aldhani, for example, too, you actually get culture, right? It's not just, people walking around in the background. There's actual culture, there's actual thought there, there's world building. We go to Coruscant again. So I totally agree that this has made the galaxy feel huge once again, where some of the other shows, they just don't put that little extra attention to detail in there.
Well, even Neamos, we're seeing a world that probably has a huge tourist draw.
Yeah, exactly.
If he's either claiming I'm a tourist, means that this is like a tourist-type planet where people go on vacation. And that's interesting to see as well.
Yeah, it is interesting to see as well.
Last comment is from Lum Vaughn. What made Andor Season 1 so amazing was the degree to which it was crafted and produced. Many times, Star Wars shows and movies are clearly slammed together to please surface-level fans that like cool ships, CGI aliens, lightsabers, and simple battle scenes with Jedi using their superhero-like abilities. This is okay for the masses, but those who consider Star Wars as a continuing and evolving universe, and that believe continuity and the creating a universe with a real feel to that resonates with the audience, often find these grand, pretty spectacles a bit light on substance. Andor showed the less glamorous side of the Star Wars universe, the common workers instead of the hotshot rebel pilots, the Imperial Army more than stormtroopers, the ISB instead of Sith Lords and Sith-trained assassins, a senator struggling against a corrupt government with family issues rather than a spoiled 10-year-old princess with her Mickey Mouse head-shaped robot. Andor spoke to adults. It toned down the flashy special effects, costumes, aliens, and ships to show a far more realistic view of what the common people faced and how they struggled and even began to rebel against the same empire that all the heroes of the movies did. Yet most of these people will struggle and many will die, unknown, part of a cause where only the heroes receive statues.
Very well said. I was saying before, there's so much more attention to detail in here than the surface level spectacles that we've kind of gotten before.
It's just really nice to get a glimpse of the everyday people forming the rebellion. By the time we see it when Luke shows up in A New Hope, the rebellion is solid, it's established, and people have been doing these jobs and making a difference. But now we're seeing the people who did all the backbone, all the work that led Luke through the rebellion.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. No, it's great to see. And it goes along also with just different stories, different everything out of Star Wars. And it still feels like Star Wars. We still have Empire, we still have Rebellion, we still have Coruscant, we still have all these other little cool things that very much, in my opinion, at least feel like Star Wars. So, like I said, if Star Wars is going to endure, if it's going to go on for decades more, it needs to vary things up. You can't always go surface level spectacle, lightsabers and ships. You gotta get into the meat and potatoes, and Andor certainly does that. All right, well, that is all we got for you this time. So do take to the comments below and tell us what you thought of Andor Season 1. Where would you rank it? And tell us what you thought of what we had to say about it, or what anyone in the comments here had to say about it. And so, again, take to those comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.